Covert action in Chile, 1963 to 1973. Appendix. Chronology, Chile, 1962 to 1975. 1962. Special group approves $50,000 to strengthen Christian Democratic Party, PDC. Subsequently, approves an additional $180,000 to strengthen PDC and its leader, Eduardo Frei. 1963. Special group approves $20,000 for a leader of the Radical Party, PR. Later, approves an additional $30,000 to support PR candidates in April municipal elections. April 8. Municipal election results show PDC has replaced PR as Chile's largest party. 1964. April. Special group approves $3 million to ensure election of PDC candidate Eduardo Frei. May. Special group approves $160,000 to support PDC slum dwellers and peasant organizations. September 4th. Eduardo Frei elected president with 55.7% of the vote. October 2nd. Ralph A. Dungan appointed U.S. ambassador to Chile. 1965. 303 Committee approves $175,000 to assist selected candidates in the congressional elections. March 7th. PDC wins absolute majority in Chamber of Deputies, becomes largest body in Senate. November 15th. Salvador Allende, in an interview reported in the New York Times, suggests the U.S. was among certain outside forces that had caused his defeat in the 1964 presidential election. 1967. June 16th. Edward M. Corey replaces Ralph A. Dungan as U.S. ambassador to Chile. 303 Committee approves $30,000 to strengthen a faction of the Radical Party. 1968. July 12th. 303 Committee approves $350,000 to assist selected candidates in March 1969 congressional elections. 1969. March 1st. Congressional elections reflect an increase in support for the National Party and a resulting loss in Christian Democratic strength. April 15th. At a meeting of the 303 Committee, the question is raised as to whether anything should be done with regard to the September 1970 presidential election in Chile. The CIA representative pointed out that an election operation would not be effective unless an early enough start was made. October 21st. Army units stationed in Tacna, Chile, revolt ostensibly for the purposes of dramatizing the military's demand for higher pay. The revolt, engineered by General Roberto Viaux, is widely interpreted as an abortive coup. 1970. March 25th. 40 Committee approves $125,000 for a spoiling operation against Allende Popular Unity Coalition, UP. June. The possibility of an Allende victory in Chile is raised at an ITT Board of Directors meeting. John McCone, former CIA director and, at the time, a consultant to the agency and a director of ITT, subsequently holds a number of conversations regarding Chile with Richard Helms, the current CIA director. June 27th. 40 Committee approves $300,000 for additional anti-Allende propaganda operations. July 16th. John McCone arranges for William Brough, CIA, to talk with Harold Jeanine, ITT. Brough tells Jeanine that CIA cannot disburse ITT funds, but promised to advise ITT on how to channel its own funds. ITT later passes $350,000 to the Alessandri campaign through an intermediary. August 18th. National Security Study Memorandum, NSSM, 97 is reviewed by the Interdepartmental Group. The group considers options ranging from efforts to form amicable relations with Allende to opposition to him. September 4th. Salvador Allende wins 36.3% of the vote in the presidential election. final outcome is dependent on October 24th vote in Congress between Allende and the runner-up Jorge Alessandri, who received 35.3% of the vote. Allende's margin of victory was 39,000 votes out of a total of 3 million votes cast in the election. September 8th and 14th. 40 Committee discusses Chilean situation. The committee approves $250,000 for the use of Ambassador Corey to influence the October 24 congressional vote. September 9th. Harold Jeanine, ITT's chief executive officer, tells John McCone at an ITT board of directors meeting in New York that he is prepared to put up as much as $1 million for the purpose of assisting any government plan designed to form a coalition in the Chilean Congress to stop Allende. McCone agrees to communicate this proposal to high Washington officials and meets several days later with Henry Kissinger and Richard Helms. McCone does not receive a response from either man. September 15th. President Nixon instructs CIA Director Helms to prevent Allende's ascension to office. The CIA is to play a direct role in organizing a military coup d'etat. This involvement comes to be known as Track 2. September 16th. At an off-the-record White House press briefing, Henry Kissinger warns that the election of Allende would be irreversible, might affect neighboring nations, and would pose massive problems for the U.S. and Latin America. September 29th. A CIA official, at the instruction of Richard Helms, meets with a representative of ITT. The CIA officer proposes a plan to accelerate economic disorder in Chile. ITT rejects the proposal. October. CIA contacts Chilean military conspirators. Following a White House meeting, CIA attempts to defuse plot by retired General Vaux, but still to generate maximum pressure to overthrow Allende by coup. CIA provides tear gas grenades and 3 submachine guns to conspirators. ITT submits to White House an 18-point plan designed to assure that Allende does not get through the crucial next 6 months. The ITT proposal is rejected. October 14th. 40 Committee approves $60,000 for Ambassador Corey's proposal to purchase a radio station. The money is never spent. October 22nd. After 2 unsuccessful abduction attempts on October 19th and 20th, a third attempt to kidnap Chilean Army General René Schneider results in his being fatally shot. October 24th. The Chilean Congress votes 153 to 35 in favor of Allende over Alessandri. November 3rd. Allende is formally inaugurated President of Chile. November 13th. 40 Committee approves $25,000 for support of Christian Democratic candidates. November 19th. 40 Committee approves $725,000 for a covert action program in Chile. Approval is later superseded by January 28, 1971 authorization. December 21st. President Allende proposes a constitutional amendment establishing state control of the large mines and authorizing expropriation of all foreign firms working them. 1971. January 28. 40 Committee approves $1,240,000 for the purchase of radio stations and newspapers and to support municipal candidates and other political activities of anti-Allende parties. February 25th. In his annual State of the World message, President Nixon states, "We are prepared to have the kind of relationship with the Chilean government that it is prepared to have with us." March 22nd. 40 Committee approves $185,000 additional support for the Christian Democratic Party, PDC. April 4th. Allende's Popular Unity Coalition garners 49.7% of the vote in 280 municipal elections. May 10th. 40 Committee approves $77,000 for purchase of a press for the Christian Democratic Party newspaper. The press is not obtained and the funds are used to support the paper. May 20th. 40 Committee approves $100,000 for emergency aid to the Christian Democratic Party to meet short-term debts. May 26th, 40 Committee approves $150,000 for additional aid to Christian Democratic Party to meet debts. July 6th, 40 Committee approves $150,000 for support of opposition candidates in a Chilean by-election. July 11th, in a joint session of the Chilean Congress, a constitutional amendment is unanimously approved permitting the nationalization of the copper industry. The amendment provides for compensation to copper companies within 30 years at not less than 3% interest. August 11th, the Export-Import Bank denies a Chilean request for $21 million in loans and loan guarantees needed to purchase 3 jets for the national LAN Chile airline. September 9th, 40 Committee approves $700,000 for support to the major Santiago newspaper, El Mercurio. September 28th, President Allende announces that excess profits will be deducted from compensation to be paid to nationalized copper companies. September 29, the Chilean government assumes operation of the Chilean telephone company, Chitelco. ITT had owned 70% interest in the company since 1930. September 29, Nathaniel Davis replaces Edward Corey as U.S. Ambassador to Chile. November 5th, 40 Committee approves $815,000 support to opposition parties and to induce a split in the Popular Unity Coalition. December 1st, the Christian Democratic and National parties organized the March of the Empty Pot by women to protest food shortages. December 15th, 40 Committee approves $160,000 to support 2 opposition candidates in January 1972 by-elections. 1972, January 19th, President Nixon issues a statement to clarify U.S. policy toward foreign expropriation of American interest. The President states that the United States expects compensation to be prompt, adequate, and effective. The President warns that should compensation not be reasonable, new bilateral economic aid to the expropriating country might be terminated, and the U.S. would withhold its support from loans under the consideration of multilateral development banks. April 11th, 40 Committee approves $965,000 for additional support to El Mercurio. April 24th, 40 Committee approves $50,000 for an effort to splinter the Popular Unity Coalition. May 12th, President Allende submits a constitutional amendment to the Chilean Congress for the expropriation of the ITT's holding in the Chilean telephone company. June 16th, 40 Committee approves $46,500 to support a candidate in the Chilean by-election. August 21st, Allende declares a state of emergency in Santiago province after violence grows out of a one-day strike by most of the capital's shopkeepers. September 21st, 40 Committee approves $24,000 to support an anti-Allende businessman organization. October 10th, the Confederation of Truck Owners calls a nationwide strike. October 26th, 40 Committee approves $1,427,666 to support opposition political parties and private sector organizations in anticipation of March 1973 congressional elections. December 4th, speaking before the General Assembly of the United Nations, President Allende charges that Chile has been the victim of serious aggression and adds, "We have felt the effects of a large-scale external pressure against us." 1973, February 12th, 40 Committee approves $200,000 to support opposition political parties in the congressional elections. March 4th, in the congressional elections, Allende's Popular Unity Coalition 43.4% of the vote. March 22nd, talks between the U.S. and Chile on political and financial problems end in an impasse. June 5th, Chile suspends its foreign shipments of copper as miners' strikers continue. June 20th, thousands of physicians, teachers, and students go on a strike to protest Allende's handling of the 63-day copper workers' strike. June 21st, gunfire, bombings, and fighting erupt as government opponents and supporters carry out a massive strike. The opposition newspaper, El Mercurio, is closed by a court order for 6 days following a government charge that it had incited subversion. The following day, an appeals court invalidates the closure order. June 29. Rebel forces seize control of the downtown area of Santiago and attack the defense ministry and the presidential palace before troops loyal to the government surround them and force them to surrender. This is the first military attempt to overthrow an elected Chilean government in 42 years. July 26th. Truck owners throughout Chile go on strike. August 2nd. The owners of more than 110,000 buses and taxis go on a strike. August 20th. 40 Committee approves $1 million to support opposition political parties and private sector organizations. This money is not spent. August 23rd. General Carlos Prats González resigns as Allende's defense minister and army commander. General Pinochet Ugarte is named army commander on August 24th. Prats' resignation is interpreted as a severe blow to Allende. August 27th. Chile's shop owners called another anti-government strike. September 4th. An estimated 100,000 supporters of Allende's government marched in the streets of Santiago to celebrate the 3rd anniversary of his election. The Confederation of Personal Employees begins an indefinite work stoppage. September 11th. The Chilean military overthrows the government of Salvador Allende. Allende dies during the takeover, reportedly by suicide. September 13th. The new military government names Army Commander Pinochet president and dissolves Congress. September-October. The junta declares all Marxist political parties illegal and places all other parties in indefinite recess. Press censorship is established, as are detention facilities for opponents of the new regime. Thousands of casualties are reported, including summary executions. October 15th. 40 Committee approves $34,000 for an anti-Allende radio station and travel cost of pro-junta spokesman. 1974. June 24th. 40 Committee approves $50,000 for political commitments made to the Christian Democratic Party before the coup. September 16th. President Ford acknowledged covert operations in Chile. October 25th. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights of the OAS reports grievous violation of human rights in Chile. December 30. U.S. military aid is cut off. 1975. June 20th. Pinochet declares there will be no elections in Chile during my lifetime, nor in the lifetime of my successor. July 4th. Chile refuses to allow the UN Commission on Human Rights to enter the country. October 7th. The UN Commission on Human Rights reports, with profound disgust, the use of torture as a matter of policy and other serious violations of human rights in Chile. Portions of the above chronology of events in Chile were extracted from chronologies prepared by the Congressional Research Service. Chile 1960-70, a chronology. Chile since the election of Salvador Allende, a chronology. Developments in Chile, March 1973 to the overthrow of the Allende government. And from material contained in the June 21, 1973, report of the Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee on Multinational Corporations entitled ITT and Chile.